Released on September 15th, 2015 on Steam, August 15th, 2017 for PS4 and Vita, and as of the time of this video, soon to be out on the Nintendo Switch on September 18th, 2018, Undertale is an RPG. I first heard about this game from the goobers over at Super Best Friends Play. It was a quaint looking title, had some good setup, nice music, catered to my dumb sense of humor, and then I saw them accidentally kill a character by the name of Toriel, and another character, Flowey, knew about it. And not only that, knew about the enemies that they killed. At this point, I was hooked, stopped watching, and played the game for myself. I completed the 3 main routes multiple times, some more than others, and due to how this game was, nearly each run I learned something new or tried out something different. It was insane and incredibly enthralling. And I was getting this from a Steam game. I don't even really like playing on PC that much. And yet, here was a game that broke that trend. And with its 3rd anniversary 2 days away, I believe it's a good time to talk about this amazing indie game and why I love it even to this day. So join me as we reminisce on Undertale. Long ago, there were 2 races that ruled over the earth, humans and monsters. They both lived together in harmony until one day where humanity's fear over what a monster could do if it had a human soul caused a war to break out between the 2 races. After the long battle, the humans won, and chose to seal the remaining monsters into the underground with a magic barrier. Many years after the war in 21, a child climbs Mount Ebott. They explore until they come across an enormous hole and end up falling in. And with this visual of a possibly dead child, the story of Undertale begins. You play as a child. You proceed until you encounter Flowey. It's a talking flower that tries to trick and kill you until you're saved by Toriel. From there, Toriel teaches the protagonist on how to solve puzzles and confrontations with other monsters. Once she feels you are ready to be left alone, she does so, to work on a surprise for you. She instructs you to stay put, but you don't listen, instead deciding to explore the ruins until you meet her at her house. She shows that the surprise was a room of your own, a place where you can live and nobody would hurt you. But the protagonist just wants to go home. Toriel, knowing how dangerous it is hesitant, so she gives you a final test to see if you can truly make it out there. You pass, and Toriel warns you about Asgore, the king of the underground, and how if you meet him, he will attempt to steal your soul. After this, you'll encounter Flowey again, who proceeds to taunt you on how you dealt with the situation, and then, you're now truly in the underground. You progress through multiple areas, encountering other characters like the skeleton brothers Sans and Papyrus, the head of the royal guard Undyne, the geeky royal scientist Alphys, and the robotic television host Metaton. You can become friends with most of these characters and learn more about them. Regardless of how you do it, after Metaton you are told by a bunch of citizens why the underground is in its current state. One day, a child fell into the underground. They were aided by the king and queen's son, Asriel. Soon, the child was adopted into their family, and they lived happily, until the child got sick and passed away. Asriel attempted to complete their final request, to see the flowers from their village. Asriel absorbed the child's soul and became a powerful being able to cross the barrier. He brought the child back to their home village, but was attacked by the residents, thinking that Asriel himself killed the child. Asriel did not fight back and instead walked back to the underground, still clutching the child, until he succumbed to his injuries and died in the royal garden, turning to dust. Asgore, in a fit of rage, chose to declare war on humanity, and swore to kill any human that fell into the underground, planning to use their souls to break the barrier and destroy them all. Before the protagonist fell, 6 other humans fell and were slain by Asgore, and the protagonist will be the last soul that Asgore needs to break the barrier. With all this build-up and anticipation, you make it to Asgore and... he's tending to flowers. You might have thought that the king would have been this tyrannical overlord that hates humans, but no. Even when he's staring you straight in the face, the first thing he would want to do is make you a cup of tea. But his hands are tied. If he doesn't get the souls, then the monsters will forever be stuck underground. He feels that it's his duty as king to do what he can for his people, and he feels awful about it. With his wife leaving and his declaration of war, he doesn't know what else he can do. seeing that his wife was really the brains that ran the kingdom. He tries to prolong the fact that you two need to fight as much as possible, and after you two fight, his immense guilt shows, as he offers his own soul just so you can leave and go back to where you belong. Asgore doesn't want power, nor did he ever want to hurt anyone. He just wants his citizens to be happy and to see his wife and kid again. And that's just heartbreaking. But it's about to get worse. Asgore gets killed and his soul shattered by who else but Flowey. Flowey then takes the 6 human souls and absorbs them, turning into an abomination. With the help of the 6 souls, you're able to defeat Flowey and leave the underground. Afterwards, you get a call from Sans that explains what happened after you left. This call changes based on the actions that you make throughout the game. And so ends the neutral route. If you did the requirements for the pacifist route, then Flowey will instruct you to go make friends with a character you couldn't at the time, Alphys. You reload your save before the fight with Asgore, and on the way to her, Undyne asks you to deliver a letter to her. It ends up being a love letter that Alphys mistakenly thinks that you wrote. After going out on a date/roleplay session and confessing how she truly feels to Undyne, you get to explore her lab, and end up finding her secret true lab. Through various entries, you find out that Alphys was trying to unleash the power of the human soul. Alphys experiments on recently deceased monsters as well as a golden flower from Asgore's garden that bloomed before the others. Through her studies, she stumbled upon what that power is, a power known as determination. The will to keep living, the resolve to change fate. The experiments led to the monsters reviving, and soon after, melting, due to monsters not being able to handle high amounts of determination. Worse off, they melted together into amalgamations. Worser still, that flower disappeared. You meet up with Alphys, and she decides to own up for what she's done, taking the amalgamates back to their original families as best she can. While in the True Lab, you come across some tapes that give an insight on the first child and Asriel. You find out that the first child is canonically known as Kara, and they were more malicious than first thought. Kara hated humanity and had a plan themselves to get 6 human souls and set the monsters free. So they poisoned themselves and fused together with Asriel, hoping to destroy humanity before Asriel took control and stopped them. After doing everything in the lab, you head back to Asgore, this time with Toriel interrupting. Asgore is ecstatic to see his wife again, but Toriel chastises him for his plan to collect souls, saying that he could have gone through the barrier after collecting 1 soul and trying to talk things out peacefully, but instead chose to wait and hope another human never came. Before the verbal abuse can continue, Undyne, Alphys, Papyrus, and Sans arrive to stop the fighting. Everyone begins talking with each other until Alphys realizes that Papyrus called everyone except Toriel, wondering how he knew, to which Papyrus replies, "A flower helped him." Flowey then ensnares everyone in vines and absorbs the souls of all the monsters as well as the human souls. Doing this turns him back to Asriel, who has become the god of hyperdeath. He informs the protagonist that he doesn't care about destroying the world anymore, and instead just wants to reset the timeline so that everything starts over from the beginning. After the fight, Asriel reverts to his original form. He apologizes for his actions, breaks the barrier, and then releases the souls from his body. During this scene, we find out that the protagonist's name is actually Frisk. Asriel says goodbye as he knows the lack of souls will eventually turn him back into Flowey. Frisk wakes up in front of Toriel, Sans, Papyrus, Undyne, Alphys, and Asgore, and after passing through the final door, Frisk and co. leave the underground. With Frisk becoming the monster's ambassador to the humans, the cast live their lives happily on the surface, with Frisk choosing to go do their own thing or stay with Toriel. And that's the end of Undertale. There's another route, but I feel inspired to talk about that in the gameplay section. So, let's get to it. Undertale is a pretty linear game. You go room to room, solve puzzles, talk to NPCs, or just interact with stuff until you reach the next story event. As you proceed, you'll get into random encounters with monsters. During battles, you can fight, act, use an item, or mercy. Fighting initiates a sequence where you have time button presses and QuickTime events depending on the weapon equipped. The closer to the center you get, the more damage you do. Acting opens up a list of actions you can do to end the fight in a peaceful manner. Every monster has a different list of actions you could do, so it's up to you to figure out how to get on the monster's good side. Once it's the enemy's turn, a box will appear with Frisk's soul inside, and you must avoid the attack until their turn ends. The dimensions of behavior of the box depend on the attack or the soul mode that you're currently in. During bosses, your soul can be changed to a different color, and depending on the color, your soul will have a different way of avoiding attacks. From being a 2D side-scroller when you're blue to using a shield to block attacks when you're green, the game mixes it up every now and then to keep things interesting. Once you have fulfilled the request, normally indicated by a monster's name being shown as yellow text, you can show mercy. Sparing the monster will get you money but no EXP. Killing the monster will get you EXP and money. Get enough EXP and your LV or love will increase, increasing your HP, attack, and defense. Pretty simple, right? Well, it is and it sort of isn't. As mentioned before, this game has 3 main routes: neutral, pacifist, and genocide. Neutral is killing at least one monster, pacifist is sparing every monster, and genocide is killing literally every monster in the game. The main thing about Undertale is that it's metafiction, meaning that the game acknowledges the fact that it is a game, and that fact is relevant to the plot. Flowey and Sans in particular know that you have the power to save and load. Flowey taunts you on your actions, especially if you kill someone on accident and try to do it over, and Sans judges you before you meet Asgore, commenting on how many monsters you killed. He also explains that EXP and love are acronyms. They stand for execution points and level of violence. And depending on who you kill, who you don't kill, or how little or how much you kill, Sans and Flowey will be there to comment on every possible combination of events, especially at the end of a neutral route. But where this shines the most is during a genocide run. As mentioned, this involves killing every monster. And I don't mean just bosses, I mean you kill every random encounter until there's nothing left. A lot of people can't even bring themselves to play this route, and it's completely understandable. Undertale is a game that deconstructs the general concept of RPGs. When you see LV and EXP, normally you think, that's my level, and I can increase it using experience points from enemies. But in context of the situation, none of these monsters are really enemies. Besides Flowey, everyone is just a resident or doing their job. And that comes through so strongly when you act against monsters and learn their personalities, their likes, their dislikes. It's great. I love helping Shyren overcome her shyness. I love getting all that garbage off of Gifttrot. I love petting Lesser Dog for way too long, and as depressing as it can be, I love calming down the amalgamates, especially Snowdrake's mother. All the monsters have been made in such a way that makes the world itself endearing, and making sure everyone is happy in the end and not wanting to mess with that, I can completely understand it. However, and some of you are gonna hate me for this, I love playing the genocide route more than any other route. See, I'm concerning. I love feeling powerful in video games. It's an incredibly fun feeling to me. Playing RPGs on New Game Plus and just watching the bodies hit the floor is very amusing, but Undertale gives off a power trip like nothing else. Most bosses end up dying in one hit because of how strong you are. Monsters go into hiding, some characters, including Flowey, cower in fear of you, and you get 2 of the most challenging fights in this game. Undyne, who gains the power of determination and comes back from being fatally wounded by you, and Sans, who reveals he's not a lazy bag of bones, he's the strongest opponent in the entire game, and has the most creative use of the game's mechanics and the consistent scene switching. Even the enemies are fun to fight for me, like Magic, Pyrope, Temmie, and Night Knight, which, by the way, I very much appreciate the Dragon Quest reference. I mean, I realize I'm the weirdo here. I know for a fact most people don't have fun playing this route, but just the fact that at the end of it all, I become so powerful that I side with Kara and destroy the entire game world in one strike, it's so satisfying. And to dig the hole even deeper, on my recent playthrough to get footage, I beat Sans without getting hit once. I've played through the genocide route so many times that I managed to beat the hardest boss in the game without even taking damage. That's just crazy to me. But at least it tells me that I'm actually decent at video games, even if it took me nearly 3 years to accomplish that. Undertale's soundtrack is also special. With tons of chiptune tracks and other tracks to use rocking guitars, bombastic horns, and beautiful strings, the soundtrack is just filled to the brim with good tracks that this video itself might increase by 20 minutes by just talking about all of them. So instead, I'll bring mention to just my personal favorites, which include Snowden Town, Alphys, Core, Asgore, Battle Against a True Hero, Megalovania, and most tracks that are a leitmotif of Your Best Friend, those being Your Best Nightmare, Finale, Hopes and Dreams, and Save the World. Undertale is one of my favorite games ever. I'll even go so far as to say that it's my favorite PC game, period. I like experimenting with all different variables and scenarios, I love interacting with all the monsters, and when I'm fighting the monsters, I love avoiding all the weird, intense, and/or creative attacks. So yeah, I love this game. And you could tell how much I love it, considering I put over 100 hours into it, and this game itself is about 4 hours long. If you haven't played it yet, I can't recommend it enough. It's got great characters, great music, and it's just a great game with a bunch to do and tons of replay value. But either way, that's enough out of my dumb mouth for one day. Thank you all so much for watching, be safe out there, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.
North side, yeah,
You progress through multiple areas, encountering other characters like the Skeleton Brothers Scans? No. No, that's not his name.